welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm Elliot Margolis. I'm here with my guest hosts, Gail Burke and George Binns, and we're here to talk about the election. As you can see, for the first time in ballpark 15 years that I've been doing the show, I am not wearing a tie. Instead, I'm wearing my proud shirt, proud member of the Deplorables basket. You know, I've never been able to figure out how Hillary could make everybody happy by calling half of the people deplorable. It's a good thing she lost the election. But I will say this. If Hillary had won the election, the liberals would not tolerate what they're doing now to Donald Trump. I mean, they're complaining about the election process. They're complaining about Trump being elected. If we conservatives were complaining about Hillary getting elected, they would call us all kinds of names. I don't get it. It is the electoral process. It was a landslide victory for Trump when you talk about the Electoral College. And one thing that the mainstream media won't tell you is that Trump actually won the popular vote when you count all the absentee ballots. So, you know, Trump won the popular vote. He won the Electoral College. He is the president, whether you like it or not. And he will be the president for 4 to 8 years. Who knows? And you know what? He's going to be a good one. I think he's going to be a good one. At least we know that he's not going to be as a liar, and he's not going to have the types of issues that Hillary had. So it's up to us to give him a chance. And I'll tell you what, if he doesn't perform the way we expect him to, we'll let you know too. We're honest because we're Republicans. George?
Well, let's clarify one thing. I'm an independent. I haven't been a Republican since Eisenhower.
Okay, we're conservatives.
Yes.
There you go. We are conservatives,
yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things that got to me about this election was how poorly the main elements of the parties behaved, both the Democrats and the Republicans, in that if it wasn't for these special electoral candidates that they put into the voting for Hillary, she wouldn't have got the nomination. And at the same time, how many of the so-called elite Republicans were openly stating they weren't going to vote for Trump? So it was a strange election from the start, a strange campaign from the start.
It was, but all I can say is, look at what Trump did. He beat members of his own party. He beat back the media because they were all against him for the most part, other than Fox News. And he beat the Democrats. With all of that coming on him, he still won.
Totally different kind of campaign.
Yeah.
And there was an article in the Salem News by the communications professor from Salem State. And I was surprised that he didn't point out to his students or to somebody that he was talking to a different crowd. And I went through an analysis on the IRS data tables. And if you look at the returns on income tax, the adjusted gross income, up to $100,000, or that kind of family income, you're talking about a little over 75% of the population. The next little group from 100,000 to 1 million, that's only about 22, 23% of the population. The returns of adjusted gross income from 1 million up, that's less than 0.5% of the returns. So the first thing you start to wonder is, every time the liberals start talking about, we want to do this, that, and 3 other things, and how are you going to finance it? We're going to tax the rich. Well, rich have some obscene salaries, benefits, kinds of things, platinum parachutes and all that, but there aren't that many of them. They don't have that much accumulated money.
But not only that, George, when you think about it, the people who are in Congress making the laws about the taxes have a lot of money. And they also are being lobbied all the time. So it's the rich people that get all the benefits of the tax laws. And so the poor people have no deductions, and the rich people have millions of deductions. So you eliminate the deductions, you eliminate the problem.
Oh, yeah. But that's the point I wanted to get to, is that this zero interest rate policy of the Fed and all the rest of these funny deals they put in to save the economy, they've jacked up the stock market. And the people from $100,000 up, they're benefiting from it, but that's such a small percent of the population. The 76%, 78% of the population between 0 and 100,000, they didn't get any benefit from this. And they came out and voted, hey, you didn't do anything for me. Why should I vote for you?
Well, he tapped into something, getting back to what you said earlier about the college professor. Trump tapped into the middle class and the lower middle class, and the fact that they lost their jobs. They've lost so much in the 8 years that Obama's been president. I mean, it's obvious, because the Democrats are supposed to be for the little guy, the middle class. They weren't talking to them at all. They paid absolutely no attention. And Trump got them. He got them, and they understood. Look, we've lost jobs. He went to all of the states like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, with these coal miners, and Hillary Clinton said it, we're going to take the coal miners' jobs away from them.
Yeah.
And that was so stupid.
All three of us are old enough to remember Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
Okay? And remember when he was calling the people the silent majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened in this election.
Yeah.
The silent majority won this election.
Yeah.
Trump, the Republicans and the Democrats alike weren't smart enough to understand what Trump was doing. They just weren't smart enough.
No, and he's a billionaire.
And they still haven't figured out what Trump did.
He's a billionaire doing what he did, and the press is falling all over themselves. They don't know what to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it comes back to the point of where the heck is the majority of the voters? And then that category of $0 to $100,000. They didn't get any benefits from all this machinations.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking to them. And the other thing the Democrats have a habit of doing is they go after the minorities. Well, at one time, the Irish were the minorities, and they went after them. Tammany Hall is a good example of it. And every time there was a different minority group, oh, the Democrats are going to take care of them. Well, they sort of keep scooping them into their little family. But they abandoned them.
After the election, they're gone.
Yeah, and when they abandoned them, all of a sudden they realized, yeah, we voted for these guys, and they didn't do anything for us.
And Trump was the first guy to point that out.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 50 years of Democratic rule in Detroit, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C., and all these big cities. Where's the education? Down the tubes.
Yep.
Where's the jobs? Down the tubes. Where's the housing? Down the tubes. And Trump finally said, you know what? What do you have to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And I think that made the difference.
Yeah.
Because granted, Trump did not get a majority of the black vote, but he got a heck of a lot more of the black vote than previous Republican candidates because he talked to them.
And he went into the cities. He went directly to them.
Yep.
He didn't stay far away from them and just talk from afar.
Yep.
He actually went into some of these cities and talked, like he went into cities in Michigan and Pennsylvania and West Virginia and North and South Carolina. And it made a big difference.
Yep.
It made all the difference in the world. And if the Republicans can now just stop the bickering, get behind Trump, and understand what he's trying to do. Yeah, he's a little crude. He's not part of the the elites in New York City, and that's a good thing, because he's going after the sanctuary cities.
Well, speaking of the
That's
elites in
great.
New York City, you take a look at Hamilton, what happened there. If that happened to Hillary, the outrage would be incredible.
Yeah.
Even our own mayor of Boston has said he is a sanctuary city. He ought to be, well, I won't say he ought to be shot, but he ought to be, he ought to be defeated.
Yeah.
Just
Somerville,
like in
the
San
same thing.
Francisco and all these other towns that say, no, we're going to be a sanctuary city. That's like saying, we enjoy being illegal, and we're going to break any law we want to break.
Yeah.
Just to get votes. That's all it is
The
just to get
fundamental
votes.
thing is when you get sworn into office, you raise your hand and swear, I will uphold the Constitution, da 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 da.
Yeah.
What gives you the right to decide, well, I will take a look at the Constitution and I will pick this one, I will pick that one, and I'm going to ignore this over here? That is just so contrary to how you can run a government. You elect somebody and, well, what are you going to do? Well, we find out when he gets there. I mean, this is totally against the basic policies of how you run a country. How can you depend on somebody if you're not going to follow up on what they said they were going to do?
Well,
Now,
you've got to
cannot-
have a president that also follows the rule of law, and obviously this one does not, and Hillary Clinton as well. So if you have somebody that's going to just take our laws and say, well, I'm not going to bother with this one like you say, or that one, what can you expect from everybody else?
Yeah.
This president has been the worst president I think that we have ever had.
You started to touch on something earlier I'd like to go back to, and that's what the Republican Party is going to have to do. And it's very interesting that when you look at the data from the election, the candidates who were down ballot polled a lot better than Trump did.
Mm-hmm.
So the Republicans got elected not so much on his coattails, but on their own. So I'm starting to wonder, is the population in general saying that, we've had enough of the Democrats. They haven't done anything for us. They said they were going to do a lot of things. One of the typical ones is Obama was going to get us out of Afghanistan and Iraq. Well, we're still there. And in addition, we got Libya on our necks, as well as Syria. So instead of being out of the war business altogether, we're in it deeper.
Don't you think, too, that the fact that Obamacare and what is going to happen after the first of the year with the increase of premiums with Obamacare, that is going to hit people very, very hard. And the high rate of deductibles that a lot of people have, I think that helped to turn the tide somewhat as well.
Well, it already has, because
Yeah.
I think I mentioned to you, we've talked privately, that I've got a nephew that works in a grocery store, supermarket, and, oh, by the way, your hours were cut to less than 30. Why was that? Oh, so you don't have to provide insurance.
Yeah.
So he's got to get his own insurance. Well, he gets his own insurance, and he gets the message that his Obamacare insurance just went up $30 a month or some number like that in the premium. But even worse than that is his deductible went up to $6,000. So you start to wonder, what is he insured for? If he gets hit by a railroad train and almost killed, well, maybe they will be able to pick up some of the tab. But to somebody who's working less than 30 hours a week and a part-time job, where's he going to get the money to come up with the $6,000 deductible?
It's a problem. I mean, the whole problem with Obamacare started when Nancy Pelosi said we have to pass the bill to see what's in it.
Yeah.
I mean, how stupid is that? And yet the people, the liberals, the progressives, quote unquote, I call them regressives, They bought into that. It made no sense. How do you pass something before you know what's in it?
Yeah.
Well, and he was always out there lauding it and lying to us. You can keep your doctor, you can keep your hospital, your premiums are going to go down. None of that happened. They were all nothing
Just like
but
all
lies.
those shovel-ready projects that weren't ready.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. So I think
The only thing
that,
shovel-ready was the guano.
and now, of course, now that we have Trump, he's not even in office yet. And they're already complaining. He's not doing this. Look what he said today. He said he was going to do this, and he's not going to do that. The guy has boundless energy, and he's very methodic in what he's doing as far as looking for people for his cabinet and to fill, like, I think it's like 4,000 different posts he has to fill. And he's got the best people in the country coming in and out and interviewing with him.
And he's very transparent about it.
Yes, he is,
Okay,
yes.
which is very interesting. And people, well, liberals don't understand that.
No.
But he is transparent. But what they're doing is they're trying to think, gee, 30 years ago, this guy might have said something because his ex-wife was getting a divorce at the time, but she wasn't prejudiced at all. So therefore, he's a racist. What is it with the Democrats and racism? I mean, the reality is the Democrats are racist because they've been in power for 50 years in big cities, and they've kept the black people down.
Well, that's the other thing that gets very frustrating is you want to talk about, we've got an immigration problem. There's no doubt about it. We ought to do something about it. As soon as you mention, well, we ought to do this and that or three other things about the immigration problem, oh, you're some kind of phobic.
Yeah.
Islamic phobic, LGBT phobic,
Oh, yeah.
homophobic.
Homophobic.
I mean, there's a whole string of them. How can you have an intelligent conversation with somebody whenever they get backed into a corner with, hey, you can't do that, oh, you're a racist or you're some other name.
And then it becomes a hate crime
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
say anything about it.
And why is Trump a misogynist when Hillary and Bill Clinton aren't? Explain that one to me.
We're back to this is one of the problems that we've got in this country. We don't get a good story from the media
No.
on what's going on. I'm particularly interested in the debt situation and the budget. Right now, health care is 25% of the federal budget. Social Security is 24%. And you throw in the net interest rate we're paying with another 6%, 50% of our budget is spent before you can make any decisions at all. And you want to talk about we need to have some defense, that's another 15%. So basically, we've built ourselves a system that runs by itself, and whoever's in charge has no real authority or flexibility to make a change.
And you know, I listen to talk radio a lot, and people call in, just ordinary people, go out there, get up every morning, go out to work, and in the past year, year and a half, you listen to some of the stories from some of these people. Some of them are working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. And then you listen to some of these Democrats and you think, they do not have a clue. And living in Massachusetts, we are inundated with Democrats. I mean, it's a one-party state.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And we've had a couple of Democrats on our show, and it's like they don't even know what you're talking about.
You ever heard the expression, good intentions lead the road to hell?
Yeah.
Well, liberals have good intentions.
Well,
I think they do.
some of them do.
But what they don't look at is the consequences of their actions. Okay? And just as a for instance with Hillary, free college. Okay?
Hillary
Who's
and
paying
Bernie.
for it?
Hillary and Bernie.
Right. Who's paying for it?
Yeah. The
What's
rich.
the result of higher taxes versus, free college? And here's the other thing. When you look at the inner cities or you look at the welfare system, when you give somebody something for nothing, they don't appreciate it and want more.
Well,
And that's a result. I mean, it's the intent is good. You don't get out of college and you owe millions of dollars. That's a fine intention. But the net result of that intention is people want more and they don't appreciate what they've had.
you have to recognize, how did we get into this situation where college education breaks the bank? And really, this is what you were talking about earlier, the unintended consequences. Somebody came up with a great idea. We're going to loan money to the college kids at some rate. And we'll make it very easy for them to borrow money. So two things happened. One is a lot more people went to college. That's probably a good thing. But a lot more colleges came out of the woodwork. You know, the
They
University of
jumped
Phoenix.
on the
done-
gravy train.
Yeah. And the net result is a lot of kids got some sort of college education, some sort of certificate that you take it to a business and it doesn't get you a good job or one that's good enough to pay off the loan you took out to get that certificate.
And look what we have now. We have Common Core. And what is one of the main themes of Common Core
the
is
praxis.
to prepare everyone for college.
Well, because Common Core is going to be out, but get it
we
with
hope
Trump.
so,
But
yeah.
getting back to the college situation, look what Hampshire College has done today. Hampshire College is banning the American flag
Yeah,
on
oh,
campus.
yes, yeah.
And they're banning the American flag on campus because it may offend somebody. Well, you know what? The hell with those people that we offend. You don't like it, get the hell out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is the United States. That's our flag. Our people have fought for that flag for years. That's why we are who we are. And if you don't like it, bye-bye.
Yeah, but don't forget, these college professors, and it's not just the college professors, it's the high school teachers, it's the middle school teachers, it's even the elementary teachers who from day one are teaching these kids the liberal way. They are anti-American, and these kids hear this year after year after year. By the time they get to college, they don't have any respect for the flag, for the country, and now that they have lost an election, look at what they're doing. We have to have safe spaces for these kids because they're so upset and so depressed. We're going to have little puppies that they can come and pet. We're going to play games with them. These are supposed to be the future of the country, who have been coddled from day one. And, you know, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. It's an election. And all of these professors and all of these high school teachers should be saying to their students, and particularly I'm talking about a member of the Beverly School Committee who is a high school teacher in Manchester, in a letter that he wrote to the Salem News. He ought to be ashamed of himself, because why aren't you telling these kids the system worked? You may not like it, but you don't always get in life everything that you want. The system worked, the Electoral College worked, we have a new president in January. Let's get behind him and see what happens. But don't act like a spoiled child who didn't get your own way.
The one I liked was came across the web a couple of days ago. It showed one of these blue bumper stickers that was put out just after Obama got elected, and it said, "He won, get over it." And below it there was one in red, "He won, get over it." It's the same thing. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, this is what came out of this election, is the country is more divided than it ever was. And
Well,
I
it's
can't
divided.
see anybody working to pull it together. Look at Chuck Schumer. He gets elected as the minority leader in the Senate.
Yeah.
Fine. The first thing he says, well, I will work with I will work with Trump on things that I think are worth working on. The other ones, I'm going to fight him.
Yeah.
He's dropping the gauntlet before the guy has showed up.
The message that Trump's election should have is that, you know, it's time to work together.
It's time to change.
Because it's, you know, what Trump's election says, We want something different than what we've had before. We want something to happen. The problem is, and it's both Democrats and Republicans, let's get the record straight.
Yeah.
It's both Democrats and Republicans. They're not smart enough to understand why Trump got elected. They're just not smart enough. People are tired of nothing happening.
Yeah.
I think Trump's going to get things to happen. Whether Schumer likes it or not, Trump's going to get things to happen.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we got rid of Harry Reid.
Yeah.
You know, but you got to understand, why did Donald Trump win this election?
Well, we were talking earlier about when you bring up Chuck Schumer, Trump said he's going to build a wall. Well, in 2006, a law was signed by President Bush with Chuck Schumer signed onto it for them to build a wall. Now, in 2006, he agreed with it. Now, because it's Donald Trump, we can't do that. But there are a lot of Democrats that signed onto it. And part of the wall was built, and then it was dropped. When Obama came into office, it was dropped.
Yeah.
So now maybe we can get going on the wall again.
I hope so.
The issues come down to, we've got some real problems in this country, and they need real solutions. And Obamacare was not a real solution. It was forced through, and it's going to be a mess trying to unravel that thing because it's gotten into the system, and to back out of it, it's going to be complicated. People are going to have to work together to make it happen. And I just don't see the motivation of any of the parties to work together. And you look at the data from the last 100, 150 years. Every time a president got elected that followed a two-term president, within a year there was a recession. Except in one case. And that guy, he had 16 months before the recession hit.
George,
So
we're getting low on time.
Yeah, so it basically comes down to somebody has got to get some control on this economy and get the economy going, get the people back to work. The jobs that will come back are going to be automated ones. Who's going to train them? This is a real problem, and I don't see anybody working on it.
Well, I think we'll have to give the new administration some time to get together, get every position filled that they need to be
He's
filled.
got some quality people that are going to work with him.
He really
and
does.
I have a lot of confidence. I mean, I really have a lot of confidence things are going to get better because of he's not getting political hacks in there. He's getting people that know how to do something.
Yeah, and I think given time, but I think we have to give him some time. He needs that time to get everything together.
Yeah.
But he's got the kind of energy that can get things done. He can move people, and I agree with you. I think he can get it done. So, well, we're just about out of time. We want to thank you for watching. We will keep doing some of these shows about the government and the election and what's happening, and we'll try to keep you apprised of what's going on. But we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.